J2E3 is something we've created at Concordia because we believe Jesus is for everyone, everywhere, every day, which is why we believe in an age-appropriate mission program. And when we first came to Concordia, we had one mission trip. We did, when New Orleans had their hurricane, we were working down in New Orleans, and after that, every mission that was done down there, a Bible verse was just kind of chosen, so it was like a theme verse. So we had a theme verse, and then we had a theme song and a theme shirt. And I don't remember exactly when we decided that Acts 1:8 was going to be our mission verse for all of our missions. We don't change it. The shirt designs may slightly change, but that's the verse. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witness in Jerusalem and all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. And the reason we chose that verse is, to us, it encompasses what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be Jesus' witnesses around the world. It's not selective. It's not to be here and not over there. It's wherever we go. If it's in the grocery store, if it's pumping gas, if you're in your school, if you're at home with your children, if you're doing dating, whatever it is, we're supposed to do that. And so in that, we've identified what we call our 4 mission fields. We have our home, which we look at as San Antonio and kind of surrounding area. Actually, it should probably start right in your own personal home with your children and your family, your closest neighbors. We still have neighbors that are really good friends of ours, yet they don't really know Jesus. They know, obviously, what we do. And we still are slowly engaging. We're friends. We have them over. We entertain with them. And but they don't know Jesus yet. So that's still a mission field. It's right next door to us, our own neighbors. Our local mission is, we look at that in San Antonio. So we have some great opportunities in San Antonio, and I'm sure, actually, as I've looked around and spoken to other congregations, anywhere outside your community, there are areas where people don't know Jesus, and there's a mission field just waiting to be harvested. We do a national, which for us is in Oklahoma. We'll go into that a little bit later on. That is for our high school students and college kids. And then we believe the final field is international. And international, obviously, is different for everyone depending on where you're from. So when we first started out, like I said, when I kind of came on to start the missioning, we were already doing a mission in New Orleans. And I think the question that came to my mind is, why do we only have a mission trip for high school students? And at the time it was high school, and our college students participated in it, but at how we do our programming is, now our college students go, but they are considered leaders, so we're always training up a next generation of leaders for missions, and so it was simply for that. So then we started talking, our staff started talking about, well, how do we start building a program that's sustainable for us, but is going to cover our congregation so everyone can be active in missions in one way or another. So we started by praying about it and deciding, God needs to really kind of direct that because, like I said, the mission field is wide open out there, and there are tons of people that don't know Jesus that are dying every day without knowing Jesus. So how do you decide which field to jump into? And you can go just about anywhere on a map, and if you talk to someone in that community, they'd probably convince you to try and come there. Obviously, you need to be led by the Spirit on that. Resources is really huge because I think depending on if you're running a mission through your church, if you're running it through a private organization, or if you're just trying to engage in mission on your own, doing an actual mission trip, then resources do come into play. And so I do believe that bigger congregations may have more resources to do that, but not necessarily. I think other congregations have people who always raise up. When it comes to me, our feeling is when it comes to people knowing Jesus, the money's not the issue. God will take care of the money. And He continually does that for us with our students who go, and anything that we've identified that we needed funding for, we've always been able to. Now we didn't. God always gave us the resources to continue that. But I think you do need to consider your resources, and then your passions. If I were fluent in Spanish, I would probably want to do some international missions in the foreign field with being able to use my skills. Unfortunately, I'm not. I'm very choppy, but I still do a mission in Costa Rica. But the passions depend. We've had a mission start at Concordia from a group of what's our guys, our men's Bible breakfast. They had been in Nicaragua years and years and years ago, and they just came to us and wanted to start it. So there was a passion with a core group of guys who wanted to start a mission. So we looked into it, we embraced it, and now we're encouraging them to keep doing that mission. Other time, yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you have a page in here? I wanted to keep my notes with your stuff.
There is not a page in there. I am sorry.
I'll stop looking then.
Do you need a notebook?
No.
Okay. I'm very sorry. We do not have a page in there.
It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, and stop me if you have questions. Just stop me at any time. That's perfectly fine. And so other times our missions, our passions are driven by natural disasters that happen, or crisis in our neighborhood, or in Texas there are the natural fires that happen. And so sometimes we just raise up and we go and do whatever it needs to be done to help in those situations. Logistics come into a whole nother area when you're looking at building your program. And if you're looking at international, and truthfully, even if you're working in the States, you need to have someone on the ground in that area to connect with. When we go internationally, we make sure we have a local church, a local pastor, a local organization that we are connected with. And the main reason for that is when we leave our mission field, those people still need to be discipled. And so if we just blow in there, do a mission, and leave, we tell them about Jesus, but we don't give them any way to keep growing in their faith, it's really not helping them in any way. And so we connect with a local agency, and we always take advanced trips. This for us is a critical piece, and I know some people don't do it, but I don't care if we're going, when I went and started a mission on the south side of San Antonio, I went to the south side of San Antonio and looked to see what is it that we are going to be doing, who are we connecting with, who are our partners going to be there, what will the work be. And the same thing when we go to Africa or we went to Mongolia. We do an advanced trip unless for some reason it just can't happen. When we went to Mongolia, we couldn't do an advanced trip because it was a real fast situation that came up, and so there just literally was not time to do it, but I had a pastor on the ground there, and I trusted him to handle our logistics. Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily trust someone to handle my logistics until they've been with us enough, they know what we're looking for, and then they know how to duplicate what it is that we're looking for. These are some of the logistic aspects of things. Local pastor support is very key. Like I said, as you're talking about Jesus to people, when you leave the countries, they need to continue being discipled in their walk. And so there has to be someone. A lot of countries don't have a local pastor. Depending on how remote you're working, there may be just an evangelist you're working with, but you need to connect them up with them. A visa story for me, I won't ever travel out of the country again without my visa already being in my passport. So I did an advanced trip to Ghana, and I got in country, and the visa wasn't there. So what happens then is they take your passport and they hold your passport. And so I'm walking around in a country. Of course, what's the one thing? Keep your passport on you at all times. So I'm in Africa without my passport. And every day I had to keep going back over there to see if it was ready. Well, it wasn't ready until the day I left. Well, you can imagine as I'm texting my husband, I'm like, well, I hope I can come home because right now I don't have a way to even get out of the country. It was ready, but there's a great agency called Visa Pros. All you do is collect all the passports of the people going on your mission. You send them the passports with whatever the fee was. It's not too much more than a regular visa. They send them all back, pre-stamped with the visas, and you have no worries about that. That's a key thing for us when we do international. Transportation is very, very important for us. We do not travel internationally without a driver. Recently we had a friend of ours who they were driving their own car, not their own car, in-country car. They rented a car, and an accident happened. Well, in that country, this led to someone dying. And in that country, what happens if that happens? You're just put in jail until everything, and that, who knows when that can be. Fortunately, with the way things worked out there, and primarily because that mission leader had on-ground contact. He had built relationships in the community, and they were able to do there's a certain fee you can pay and all these other things. But transportation, we don't. In fact, we used to even on our national trip, we used to when we went to New Orleans, we would drive, I think, 12 passenger vans. We'd all caravan down to New Orleans, which wasn't bad going down there. There was 2 adults in the car, because you're pretty awake. But when you're done at the end of the week, driving back became really dangerous for us because we were just exhausted. And so it started with, we had a caravan of Suburbans that would meet us on the far north side of Texas, swap out drivers. And even if the driver said, no, we're fine, we can still drive, we were like, nope. If you're from the mission field, you need to get in the van and let someone, or in the Suburban, someone else is going to drive it. And of course, you always just immediately fall asleep the second you get in the car. So now we don't even do that. When we have our national mission, we usually run between 80 and 100 people. So I just charter 2 vans, 2 full-size buses, I mean. And that's easy. We all just get on the bus. I have a boy bus and a girl bus, and the bus driver takes us wherever we have to go. Safety is out of it. Everyone can sleep, and costs a little bit more. That's where your resources come in at. But for safety, that's a priority for us on all the way around, is the safety issue. Security is key, especially if you're traveling internationally. We always try to stay in compounds that have some kind of security fence. Usually there's someone blocking the fence as well. Can't say much about that. Publicity, when you do an advanced trip, a good example of this was when we were in Joplin. It was in Joplin when they had their tornado. Working in Joplin, we had gone on, my husband and I went on an advanced trip. We took a picture of one of the houses that was devastated. By the time we went back for the mission field, we were actually placed in this house that we had taken a picture of on our advanced trip. But it didn't occur to us until like day 3, because by the time we got there, the trees were blooming, and all of a sudden we see, wait a minute. And so because of publicity, we had that picture before, so we saw what it was right after the tornado and what it was like when we left there. So it was really a neat piece to have for our people. Lodging is, we used to say you had to have hot showers and a nice bed and a roof over your head, but we do one of our missions in Costa Rica, which is in a jungle. And so now I kind of can't go with my line anymore, because now it's a place to sleep and running water. It's a river, but it still runs. And so we had to change that a little bit. But lodging is important, and that's a perfect example of, if we didn't know this area well, the problem is you are very close to a river. If something happened and there was a lot of raining, we had to get out of there. We had to know where we were to get out of there. But for sleeping, we were able to find these great tents. They lay on the floor and they're fully locked in, so you don't have to worry about, I don't like bugs in any way. And so for me, that was like, okay, I didn't have to worry about it crawling up my bunk and getting in there. It was safe, and thing is teaching your people to make sure they zip it up after they're done. I can't say enough about this. Insurance for your trips. If you don't have anything else that you can buy extra, spend the $30 on this. Insurance consultants, Craig Robinson, he's around here. I've seen him already. This is a peace of mind for you. If something happens and you need to be evacuated, if you feel your life is in danger, you can call and get taken out of there, rather than a lot of the agencies and policies have to be, there's a major, someone declares it a disaster, you need to get out. A certain type of medical you have to have. But this has a totally different setup for you. For us, we got, on our way back from Costa Rica, our flights were delayed on our connection. We actually made our connection, they just wouldn't let us on the plane. But we had to spend the night in Houston. Well, this agency, because we had to spend the night there, they covered the hotel's rooms. We ended up not flying home. They would have paid for our flight home. They reimbursed us on that flight from Houston to San Antonio, but we ended up renting cars because I guess there was a lot of rain at that point too. So flights were delayed for 2 days. So I'm like, well, we can drive home in a few hours. So having that insurance company and having that in your back pocket is critical piece for any mission. I don't care where you're at, we do it. If you have to cancel it, if you have it in a certain amount of time frame, it's refundable for you, your cost of your trip is. So that's one thing, make sure you get. So why do we do age-appropriate missions? I know it's not language that's typically used on the mission field, but it is something that we believe in, because we feel that the mission should meet the maturity level of the individual, build excitement and adventure for future missions, and foster individuals to share their faith and function in different cultures around the world. I know some of you guys are writing that, so I should have printed out some of this for you. This is critical for us as we're doing our mission programming right now. We have children. When we go back and talk about the Acts 1:8 Bible verse, when I'm on my junior high mission trip with my youth, we ask them, well, what does that verse mean in your own language? And they know already that it means, oh, I can't go to Oklahoma until I do my local one, and I can't go to Africa until I do this. So the kids already understand the concept of the Acts 1:8 model, and they can apply it to their life. But an important part of this is each age that we're doing this, we build on the child's ability to share their faith. Faith sharing is not comfortable for anybody, and especially our youth. But as they start doing it in easy, tangible ways that doesn't put them so far out of their comfort zone, then as they start moving up and doing different things and sitting down one-on-one with someone, they've had years to build that experience, so it's not as intimidating for them. Here are some key points where we do it. It involves all people of all ages. Our programming starts, we do on the 5th Sunday of every month, we bring mission to the church. And I'll show you a little bit about that later on. So everyone can participate without leaving. As they leave the church, they get to participate in a mission. We always go in areas where the gospel can be proclaimed. That is our whole point for a mission, is to tell everyone about Jesus everywhere, every day. So that is why we do gospel proclamation. And the team will be successful with gospel proclamation. So if I take one of my junior high students who's just kind of starting to feel a little bit comfortable maybe with reading a Bible verse out loud, and instead of building them up to that, and I take them and move them over to Africa and say, will you sit down with this gentleman with an interpreter and share your faith? Well, he's not going to be successful, and he probably will never want to do it again. So we're building our youth up to be comfortable with sharing their faith, but in a way that doesn't frighten them away from it. The same thing with comfort and safety. You got the comfort, but then you have the safety. Bottom line is, most places won't, if you are taking a child under 18 out of the country, you have to have a notary document saying it. Both parents have to sign it. It's just, truthfully, it's just a hassle. So we don't take them out of the country unless the parent's with us, and that's because they've already gone through the programming up to that point. And the next step then would be for them to go to Costa Rica, which is our next stepping stone international. But to do that, if they're not 18, then a parent goes with them. It just makes logistics easier. If something happens health-wise, takes some of that responsibility off of us, because we've got a whole bunch of team with us, 30, 35 people in the middle of a jungle. So if I have someone who's a little younger, having a parent there just helps with that. And ultimately, this does lead people to more active in discipleship. So people going on mission trips, it amazes me the growth that I've seen in our kids because of their mission trip experience. They've turned from very timid, uncomfortable, not sure about it, to sharing their faith publicly. More importantly for me, is we do another ministry, our retreat ministry. They are very bold to share their faith with their own peers, which has a huge impact on their peers as well. So our short-term missions have long-term commitments to a specific people group, church, or geography for the purpose of gospel proclamation. So we don't just, I know some people will go pick a place this year and then pick another place next year and pick another place next year. We don't do that. We find a location and we stay in that location once we've identified it. The primary reason for doing that is relationships developed over time build trust and help establish partnerships. So a good example of that is in Costa Rica. We work in the middle of a jungle. It's a Bribri tribe, very tribal is actually the best word for that. And when we first went there, they would acknowledge that we were there, because it's not a place where people go. It's a 45-minute ride up a little banana boat that looks like it's going to sink in the middle of the river, and then if you're lucky, there's a cattle car that can pick you up. We had a hike in last time because it had so much rain, so you're 45 minutes into the jungle. Very primitive, no electricity. The school has some electricity and plumbing, but most of the people in this area do not. And from the time we started there until last year, we've developed a relationship with, number one, we identified who the key person is. His name is Anselmo, and he's in a picture a little bit later on, because he's kind of like what you would call the mayor of that area. And but by establishing relationships with him, he kind of gets the word out that there, word travels. So it's like it's okay. You can go be with them, what have you. We've developed relationships so close with them that one of the couples from the area right before the jungle, their kids were going to come up and spend some time with us just to kind of get a feel for this. They trust us with that. They've worked alongside us. We do construction work with them. They've sat with us. We did an eye clinic. We brought an eye clinic because, again, this is a very remote village. They don't get eye care. If they get medical care, it happens once a week on a Wednesday if the doctor is available. And that typically isn't the case. When we've been there, it hasn't been the doctor. It's been a nurse who's come up there. So they do not get any kind of eye care. And but we were able to do that only because we were there. We found out and identified what are their needs. I didn't go in there, and we didn't go in there and say, this is what you need. We stayed there, built a relationship over years with them, and through them, identified what their needs were. If there happen to be missionaries on the field in whatever country we're working at, there's a lot of conflict oftentimes with short-term mission teams with the missionary on the ground. It's because they don't cooperate, they don't work together. There's a threat of everyone's territorial. Everyone feels like this is my territory, you shouldn't be in here. But if you're there long enough, you start building those relationships, then it helps transition. And again, that's just another person who you connect with to continue discipleship after you leave the field. They always help grow the local church, regardless of the denomination. We do not do missions only with Lutheran people. We feel like Jesus is for everyone, so we don't really care. As long as they're going to a Christian church and there's a pastor in that community, we've developed a relationship with the pastor, formed a pastors association. As long as it's a Christian church, we're happy with that. We want these people who we've talked to and who the Spirit's worked and led them to follow Jesus. We want a church to disciple them. And oftentimes, depending on where you're at in the world, there's not a Lutheran church in the area. We worked in Concordia, which is in Kenya. There was not a Lutheran church anywhere. It was a Muslim community. Well, you can't. So we don't work only with our Lutheran churches. They can lead to church plants. In Concordia, the church area there was 2 little tiny house churches. They don't communicate. The pastors don't work together. They kind of hoard who is who, but because of us bringing an eye clinic there, they were forced to work together because we just wouldn't bring the eye clinic to their people. What that did was people came to faith at the clinic, so they received their eye care. They hear great news about Jesus. They come to believe. They come to be baptized if they want to be. But that church starts to grow because those people then are being discipled from their church. So those churches start growing. And the nice thing about it when you work well in a community is they work well and they play nice together. They start doing things together. So instead of a 10-member church and 10-member church, you now maybe have 40-40, but they're working together to reach people in their own community. So you're actually teaching them to do an Acts 1:8 model in their own community. Making disciples of Jesus is the desired outcome for all of short-term missions, and it's done at different levels. So when we travel somewhere, we think we're bringing them the gospel. Sometimes we are, but sometimes our own team is learning more about their faith in the walk. So it is both ways. The presenters of the salvation message, sometimes we're sharing the message. And actually, when you're working with an interpreter, and I think I have a video of that next as well, sometimes you're not sure okay, so I'm talking about Jesus and I get stuck. Well, then there's someone who can help you through that. So it kind of is a triangular. You're teaching, you're learning, and someone else is receiving. So it's a great model. What we love is connecting with the local people. So any mission that we do, we connect with local people. If we do an eye clinic anywhere, we get into the village on our pre-trip and we connect with the local church and local pastors, And if Lutheran Hour Ministry is in that community, I would highly encourage you to use them. They're great at follow-up and discipleship. But the local pastors and the local people in Ghana, there's a seminary there, so we had all these SEM students coming over. Well, a lot of the SEM students there had never sat down with anybody and shared the gospel message. So we use the local people to do that. They know the culture, they know the language that's going to work best. I certainly don't know Swahili, nor do I know necessarily the language and words. There are certain words that I use, certain hand movements that I use that are not acceptable. So by having someone else do that, you're not offending anyone with the gospel. Pre-mission trip discipleship. All of our missions, we try to engage everybody in our congregation on it. There's a few things that we do up there. We have a blessing and sending. Whenever we send a team out, the whole congregation is, or the whole mission team is brought forward in front of the congregation, and there's a blessing said over them. And it's powerful because it gives us, as we're leaving the country, a sense of knowing that every one of those people in our congregation know we're leaving and they're praying for us. And we'll continue with that. We have prayer teams. We do team training. I have different people. As you can imagine, if I'm bringing an eye clinic somewhere, I have 10 foot lockers of eye supplies, so you got to constantly restock it, reorder, reorganize. It's always a mess when you come back. So we have people who actually will come in and help do that. Sometimes we're creating evangelism materials. Oftentimes we can just go online and order what we need. Mission Shares is one of our strongest ways that we engage our entire congregation in the process of being a participant, because there are people who are willing to go and serve, but there are other people who say, I'm not going out there, I'm not comfortable with that at all, but God has blessed them tremendously with resources, and so we have mission shares, and those mission shares are a piece of paper that they can fill out, and when they do that, what we do in return is they get updates from the field on a regular basis. So if it's a national one, sometimes we live stream some of our worship services at the end of each of our day. They get blog notes immediately from whoever's blogging out there. And so they're getting immediate information from the field of what's going on. But our team is being blessed. And when it comes to our national mission, we take anywhere from 75 to 100 people. Most of those students, a lot of those students could use help, finances, or if someone's sending 3 students, so those mission shares come into play.
Are the mission shares a set amount?
No, which is the beauty of it. So we encourage them not to make it to an individual person. Then they can use it as a tax deduction. So if they want to give 50, they can give 50. If someone can give 5, they give 5. And obviously we've been blessed with other people who give more. So we don't set it. We just allow them to work it between them and God and what they feel they can do. And it's a great model. Yes, sir.
I had one of our bilingual fellowship members asked me if I'd go to a house and meet with a family meeting that wasn't too far away. And I didn't know what for, but we got there, and then, like Acts 17, they said, well, you were here, and what do you have to tell us? So then all of a sudden you're working through a translator trying to share the gospel. You had mentioned training. Do you prepare them for that type of thing? They just gotta go? Is it?
We do.
They don't do that at seminary.
You just throw it out there and hope it works?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. And so because what we do on each of our missions are slightly different, the training is also slightly different. But the mission component and sharing Jesus, we're started very young. So they keep going, and as they're doing it, then they become more comfortable. Like you said, they're not in that shocked position where someone's like, oh, what do? I got to talk about Jesus. I don't even know where to begin. They've already been given some tools, at least, where they're feeling at least somewhat comfortable with that. This is one of our pulpit announcements that we use. This promoted our Costa Rica mission trip. Thank you, Jonathan. How many was all of ours?
My name is Kara, and I have been on 6 mission trips.
Howdy, my name is Stephanie, and I went on an epic mission trip this past summer to Costa Rica.
My name is Christopher Whitehair, and I have been on 4 mission trips.
I've continued to sign up for mission trips over the years because I've realized that no matter where you go or how many times you've been, it's a different experience every time.
Last year, I moved to San Antonio, joined Concordia, and heard about the Costa Rica mission trip. And I knew it was something that I wanted to go on someday, but at first it seemed like there were a lot of reasons not to go. I was brand new to Concordia. I didn't know anybody else going on the trip. I would have had to take a week off work. And most importantly, I didn't know what shoes to wear in the jungle. But I decided to focus not on why I couldn't go, but instead on why I should go.
I think what made me decide to go on the mission trips was the ability to serve in a way that I have never done so before. I've done things like vacation Bible school, but after going on the first mission trip, I think I realized that it truly is a humbling experience, an experience that you really don't get anywhere else, and it's that experience of really being able to help someone in a way that maybe you can't do at home is something that was really rewarding.
We primarily did construction / hard labor.
We built several different pig pens and chicken coops. Some of the men on the team reworked the camp's water system to help get water from the river so that we could purify it and drink it.
But we also did VBS type activities with the kids in the community.
And that was my favorite part because it was really cool to see that even though we didn't speak the same language at all, that wasn't a problem. We just played and we just sang songs with them. I would say to someone that's considering going on a mission trip that I would like to recognize that it can be really scary to go and take the first step to go on a mission trip or to go internationally.
Maybe it's not so much about me giving up my summer as much as me really putting my summer to use and make a difference.
The relationship that I built with God over the last couple of years has been incredibly influenced by the mission trips.
I really think you'll get a lot out of the trip and you'll be amazed by what God can do through a trip like this.
So currently we have, this is the structure we have right now for our mission program. What I forgot to add in here is we are also looking at starting a senior mission trip, and it will probably be in Costa Rica. So our mission trip to Costa Rica is, to get to the jungle is a very long process, but there's a great hostel and a great community to serve in San Jose, so we'll be adding on there. So we have congregational involvement. We have a family mission, which is local. Our junior high is a local. High school is national. Our college and adult is international. And then we have a J2E3 multinational one. And that one is being done from our home. We're not even leaving our homes to do that. This is congregational involvement. This is actually through Children's Hunger Fund. These are the opportunities that we offer our congregation. On the 5th Sunday of a month, we bring the mission to Concordia, and this is a project where we fill food boxes. So one week they pick up the food boxes, they bring them back, the kids go shopping with, they fill the food box up. But what we love about this is it partners with the local pastors in the community. The pastors use those food boxes as a means to go to some families who do not have the means to feed themselves, and it allows them their foot in the door to start talking to them about Jesus. That's the 5th Sunday. We bring some sort of here. I don't know if I can fast forward through these. Care kits we do for our homeless, Global Media Outreach, and then Children's Hunger Fund. Our local mission, which is Mission San Antonio, this is our family mission one. Jumped the button on that. This is a new one that we started. We were with them last year. This year we're making a family mission. So this is for anyone. They can take any children, any age, up through 6th grade. So we're going to do 6th grade and under for this. It's with Texas Foundation of Hope, and we'll be bringing a VBS to a community on the south side of San Antonio for underprivileged, handicapped, special needs people. But the nice thing about this is when you're trying to engage your family, our children are obviously going to learn best from parents, right? They're going to do what their parents do. So if they see their parents do it, number one, it stretches families. It'll stretch the parents because parents typically aren't comfortable doing that, but they will start doing it, but it stretches them, but it also stretches the children. Most mission fields, I would say, are really not a good place for younger children. I wouldn't take a 5-year-old on a mission, but if I have a parent there and it's just 3 hours or 4 hours on a site and then they come home at night, it makes it a much safer place. But sharing, again, faith doesn't come naturally. So as our kids are in an environment where they're meeting with other people and they're sharing a VBS and they're talking about Jesus, it starts to build that foundation for them.
Do you do that rhythmically as well, or do you do that like on the 5-week cycle, or is that more?
This is a one time down there. Now they're starting to work with us. We want like to do a sports camp and stuff down there, so they're starting to come up with different ways. We just started with them last year at this one, or at that family one. Our junior one we've been doing for years. This is one of my favorite ones. It's for junior high students in 7th and 8th grade, and what I like about it's on the south side of town, but the mission continues even after we leave there because it's very poor families that we're working with, and so the kids do gospel salvation bracelets. They share it with the neighborhood. They have conversations every day with the homeowners. We set them up with daily devotions, and they invite the homeowners out. We pack them a lunch, and they have lunch with us, and they share devotions with them, which and then ends up leading to conversations about Jesus. But what's beautiful about this is we're able to continue with them and kind of, I don't know why I keep doing that, host the families and provide gifts for them. What we do now is instead of going to the house, we take them to the area, it's called Blueprint Ministries, and we decided the first year this is how they want us to do it, to bring it to the house. We decided collectively as a congregation we didn't like that model, that we want the parents to become the heroes of Christmas. So we're just anonymous. They don't even know where the gifts come. We don't put anything with our church on it. We just deliver gifts. The parents have a list of what they wanted. We purchase the gifts. We bring them down there. They pick it up and deliver it to the family. We have one gentleman who's diabetic. He still is asking for sugar-free apple pies, and so when it's local like that, it's easy to keep having a relationship with the community. Our high school one is our national, and that's in Oklahoma. We take them an extra step. They're still doing devotions. They still have salvation bracelets, but we actually take them out into the community and prayer walk with them. And I think we're going to run out of time, so I won't go in there, but I can talk to you later after that. This is actually an area where we were prayer walking, and this lady was just coming home from a doctor, and the kids surrounded her, laid their hands on her, and prayed over her. Certainly my junior high students would not be at all comfortable doing that model. Every evening we have a big worship service, an added thing for high school. Our college and adult one, so Costa Rica, we go Costa Rica, we've been Mongolia, it just depends on what age they are at, but we still do salvation, I call them salvation beads because they're done a little different. We use necklaces. There's individual discipleship, so they're sitting down one-on-one with people. They're praying with people. There's a large group presentation, and then there's still worship. This in Costa Rica, this is actually on Samo, and you can see even though we're specifically talking to him, the message is still being heard by his children. His children, his family are still there receiving the word. This is large group presentation. This is in Ghana, and this is one of the local pastors sharing the evangelism cube with the people. And then to the left, we're actually in Kenya there. And the girl in the top corner is Tristina. She's just really an amazing young lady. But we sit down, we talk to them, we find out what prayer requests they have, we hear their hurts, their struggles, their joys, and we pray with them. And then we share the gospel. This is Arnold. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it. John, will you turn that off? It's in Swahili, so he's working through an interpreter, Pastor David. But you'll see where Arnold doesn't know what to do next. So he's working with the local pastor who is now showing him how and where to go next with sharing the gospel to the person he's speaking to. This was a big step for Arnold because he wasn't at all comfortable with this. Actually, I was surprised he did it because he originally said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And then we have our J2E3 multicultural ministry. This is a new ministry for Concordia. Have we been doing it about a year now, honey? It's about a year. So we're not. Some of our models are taken and going to a mission field. Some of our models are not. We're just enabling the people on the field to do the mission. And so these are the people that we're discipling in different areas right now. Abid in Pakistan, we've been discipling him for just about a year, maybe. Not
about 14 months.
Yeah, and we're doing baptisms. So we've not left the country, and we've discipled a young man who's working his community, who's bringing Jesus to people. He's training other pastors in the community on a model, and Spirit's working, bringing people to faith. So we Skype or Zoom call, whatever we're going to do, and we're able to be a participant in that baptism, and then we send them the documentation for their baptism. Depending on how you're going to start a mission program or add to it, you can start it in different ways. You may decide where you're going to go for a site. You may be the one who says, boy, you know what, I really want to go to California, which I don't mind that. I thought Hawaii would be a good place, but it wouldn't get approved. But you can identify it. You can be invited by the local church pastor organization. Actually, we were invited to Ghana. That's how we ended up in Ghana, is because the president of the LCMS there asked us to come there and start doing mission work for him. So we were just invited in. We prayed about it and said, okay. We had nothing else to do that week. Or you can partner with an existing agency, right? And these are the agencies, if you're starting your program, these are the agencies who we have found do a great job with every aspect of missioning, from programming, and you may have to tweak it to fit what works for your church and your body. But Next Step Ministries and Experience Mission, we have worked with for years. They now understand what kind of ministry we're looking for. If they have a new site that pops up that they've identified, they'll call us and say, hey, I'd like you to think about this one. Actually, this has happened with Alaska. Lutheran Hour Ministry is by far, if you go anywhere and you can connect with Lutheran Hour Ministry, do it. When we work in Ghana, President Finn, if we have an evangelism opportunity, which we have all the time, if someone comes to faith, we have like twofold paper, so it's carbon copied. We take one with us and we leave this other sheet with the person for them to follow up with for discipleship. So when we go back to the country, we can say, hey, tell me about Joe. Have you seen him? Yeah, and they should be able to tell us, he comes to church, he does this, and he does that. And so President Finn asked us not to use the local pastors because he felt like Lutheran Hour Ministry discipleship program is better than they can do as pastors. And so we use Lutheran Hour Ministry in Kenya. We've used them in Ghana. Where's the other one I've worked with them at? I don't know. But they're Nicaragua. Yes. Nicaragua. Sorry about that. All these Blueprint Ministries is south side of San Antonio. They're just amazing organization. I mean, for you, that would be like a big mission trip to do. For us, it's just our local. But great organization, great heart for people, and totally sold out on winning people over for Jesus. Our post-mission discipleship is, we celebrate our missions whenever we come home. We already start announcing the next time and date of all the missions. Right now, all of our missions are already listed out on our website. We put a slide show together, video presentation, because we try to capture the kids, adults, whoever it is, right away on video, because the sparkle in their eyes are right there when they get back. And so we try to capture it then. That's some of that videoing. We do a presentation where all the students who do, even with our 75 to 100 mission trip to Oklahoma, all the students come forward and they share their testimony in some format, whatever is more comfortable for them to do it, to the entire congregation. We always provide our dates on those presentations, and we announce where we're going to have our next short study or what our next program will be for classes. That's it. I'm done. Look at that. I got time left. Didn't think I'd make it. So what kind of questions do you have?
I'm curious what kind of parameters you might have on, like, asking your congregation for donations to various missions. I think that's always been a thing I've struggled with, is there's 4 billion needs out there, and I mean, we could hit up our congregation for something every week if we wanted to, and we want people to participate but not be overloaded on it.
Are you talking about providing, like, mission as far as sending funding to something?
No, I'm thinking about like donating items or money, or hey, you can help our trip if you would buy hygiene kits and donate them,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. We kind of have a different model at Concordia where we've really cut down on all the fundraising aspect of things. We do one major fundraising, it's an auction, and if I have, like, on this last auction, I said I need new foot lockers. I've carried them on however many missions they're chipping and breaking, so I asked, instead of putting it in a budget, that some of the donations from the auction go to purchase that. So we don't really ask that kind of stuff for our mission trips.
I thought there was something earlier where you were giving, yeah, forgive me, I forget the details, but you were asking people to take a box and take it home and fill it up with something. So that's some sort of donation, right?
Well,
food box.
yeah, that's an optional thing. So we just said, here, we have a mission opportunity we've brought to you.
Yeah.
If you go outside, you're more than welcome. I mean, we put it out there for them. We encourage them to do it, but we don't like say, oh, you need to do this.
Can I jump in on that?
Sure.
Because you're kind of talking about two different things. The only fundraising we do for mission trips, which is really a little bit different, is the mission shares. And those, the idea, and the reason it's called mission shares, inviting people to like buying a share of stock. You have ownership in that endeavor. So that's what the mission share is about. What she's talking about with these others, every fifth Sunday of the month, we call it Jubilee Sunday. And so we offer reaffirmation of baptism and baptism. We have special things that happen for kids and families. We usually have some kind of special musical presentation. The message is designed to be very evangelistic, with a particular invitation to baptism. And our people know we promote it in advance and say, if you've been working on somebody, invite them. This Sunday is a Jubilee Sunday. But there's always a mission component where members of the congregation can participate in mission, whether it's feeding the poor, or whether it's care kits that we assemble, or they can assemble to give to homeless people who are panhandling, or other kinds of things where everything happens right on campus. So all they have to do is pick up a box and bring it back the next week, or assemble a care kit to take with them to have in their car. So we really don't even view that as fundraising, but our people love it.
Yeah.
They really engage in that, because now they're being part of the missions program and engaged in evangelism and mission and serving without going to Costa Rica or Kenya or wherever else.
Other questions? Yeah.
Do your team members pay 100% of the cost, or do you budget any of that in the church?
The team members do pay for their own trip. However, those mission shares do offset that if someone needs help with it. Then our model is we want everyone to do mission, and so if that means we have to sponsor, we try to make it possible for everyone to do it.
You do form letters or any allow any of that people can?
I have sample letters that I have sent individual people, like a couple people going to Costa Rica, and someone when they went to Africa said, do you have any kind of letter that you did? And I said, yeah, I do have one drafted up and you can use it. And I don't use it, but I have them go ahead and modify the fields in it to fit their language, but here's a basic structure of it, and then they use that. So they have done that. I've seen some of our kids, and they've taken it upon themselves. They're passionate enough about the next step. So by the time you've done the local and national, you're ready for the next international, which is also almost double in cost. Well, our high school students already are thinking, or college students are going, my parents are already paying for college, what can I do? And so we've had students design their own t-shirts, and on Facebook they're promoting that themselves. And so they just take it upon themselves to figure out a way to make sure they can get the funding. And then we always jump in if they don't get the funding. So.
Can I add something to that too?
Sure.
Or you can take off on this. But the lessons we've learned about requiring deposits and
Oh, yeah. It's a hard lesson. We're trying to have a program that works for this, and I like to do things electronically instead of standing outside and getting their names and collecting checks. And what we consistently have a problem with is someone signing up to do something, not putting down a non-refundable deposit, and then as we're 2 weeks out, oh, we decided we're not going to go. Oh, well, maybe you should let me know. And so now we're trying to move that to we're going to set a non-refundable deposit, because by the time it gets closer to that mission, like we've already paid for our summer missions already, and so I can't. And then a lot of times, because our missions filled up, I'm telling people no, they can't go because there's not a spot, and then as we go to leave, there's 7 spots because these other people decided they're not. So that has been a hard lesson for us to learn. It's also hard too because I have a hard time asking for non-refundable deposit, but I think we tried it that way. We went away from it, and now we're back to this is just we just need to do that. Yes, ma'am.
What's been your experience in communicating the non-refundable deposit?
I'll let you know next year. We're just putting that in this year just because I don't think there'll be too much pushback on it. I think what it will really do is the people who are definitely going to go on the mission are going to sign up, and the people who are like, well, I just want to decide where we're going to do, they're not going to sign up. They will sign up when they know for sure that they're going to go on that mission. That's what I think will end up being the outcome of it.
What's your participation level?
Filled. Our missions are filled.
Is it that your spots are filled, or is it the majority of your people are going, or?
Spots that we can take are filled. I mean, maximum, the most I probably would, well, maximum would be probably 108 on our Oklahoma one, and we usually are. Last few years have been between 90 and 100 on it. Our junior high one is a newer one, but it has doubled up in size. So last year, I think we started with 12 or so, and then we went to like 20 something, and then we had like 40. Last year we had 67 people or something. So each year they keep multiplying in numbers on who's as kids start talking about it and kids are experiencing it, then more people are starting to jump in. So we can keep adding missions and not, I mean, literally the problem becomes, being gone so much, or, my model is not for me to constantly have to do all these missions. It's raising up right people to take over those missions and lead the missions. I'll go there, get it started, get the contacts on the ground and organize it, but eventually it's raising up. In fact, Tristina and Arnold were 2 people faithful for Africa, and then she went and had a baby. So now, everyone's life changes. So our model is not for me to have to keep going on every mission trip, but to raise up an individual person to keep doing that.
What percentage now, maybe you said this, what percentage are you going and what percentage do you have somebody else going for you?
Well, right now I go on all. I do all of them. But I love it, right? I mean, I'm very passionate about it. So the hard part is I'm away from my family. Our kids are in college, so if I do something during the year, it's not as bad, although they worry about me traveling internationally a lot. For Bill, he's just kind of at home waiting for me to come home. So a little harder for Bill,
How many are you averaging a year that you're going on?
You didn't do Nicaragua last year, TJ.
Oh, yeah.
TJ did Nicaragua.
Yeah, it was somewhere else.
Probably 4 to 5.
Yeah.
I know you have different levels of say you have the junior high and then the high school, what's the chaperone child ratio usually?
It really varies. My junior high students, a lot of it will depend on where you're at and the work groups that you're setting up. So if you have a work group, junior high students are not that good with tools and stuff, and we have waivers. There's only parents have to sign off on what they can use, and we just hold them to it. So ours vary. The other thing that we do is even our junior high school, like this year, I had high school students go with us on the junior high mission trip, and so they were kind of adult leaders, not adult, but they're high school leads for that. Yep, so we just keep building it that way and have them keep mentoring other students. I would say our junior high, we usually have a male and a female because we usually have mixed groups, so we have an adult or college student with them, and I think we have 9 people in a group. Some of them only had 7. Our high school one, I think that's usually a little higher, and again, it depends on what the project is and where we're going at. That's pretty much driven on your site and where you're going to be at.
But they're always at least on high school, there was always an adult lead and then a college student.
Yeah, and a male and female in those roles.
For something new, if somebody would come and say, hey, I found this network, this organization in Guatemala, I'd like to go there. Some kind of a matrix to, so much support or whatever before we start to move on and start building it, or, you know what I mean? To start something new, what does it take to get the wheels turning?
Like to go and start a site?
To a new place, yeah.
Your first step will be having to go there. You need to connect with local church or a pastor or an organization. If you're doing a medical thing, connect with the health department. When we do our eye clinics, we also connect with the health department because they will bring, if you're gathering roughly 3,000 people in a week and you're in Kenya, well, the health department will want to do a free screening for AIDS, right? And so you connect with that. So it takes time to do that, but you have to go on the ground. I wouldn't just jump in a country and say, oh, I'm going to go to Nicaragua and fly down there. I would connect with the local pastor down there.
So you go
first.
back to your same sites over and over again?
Yes, we do. Yep. It's the only way you build relationships with people. So yes.
With eye clinic, is it that you saw the need for an eye clinic, came back and figured out how to do an eye clinic, or did you have people in your congregation that already were gifted in that area, so that's why you brought the eye clinic?
We bring the eye clinic when we're asked for it. Like in Ghana, we were asked to bring the eye clinic there. The health department in Costa Rica, when they saw what we did, they actually want us to reach all the indigenous tribes in Costa Rica, which would be awesome to do, but that also means we're going deeper into the jungle, which then safety for us becomes harder if something happens. It's that much harder to get out. So we don't, I would say probably early on we may have decided that this is what you need, but I've learned over the years, and I should say we have learned as a congregation, that it's really best to hear from the people on the ground what they need than to try and go in there and tell them what they need. So, yeah. Any others?
I think what people are thinking, Joy asked me to remind you, tell them that the slides will be available on bestpractices.church.
Okay. This is our final. This is where I want to end this at. This is a baptism that took place in Concordia. This is a young Muslim man. He ended up being baptized, Nicholas William. And this is where working with the pastor and listening to what their desires were came in play, and I'll explain that after this. I couldn't talk because I was crying. Will you turn the lights on? The young gentleman, this is working in Kananga, it was all Muslim community. The pastor there, when we went to country, we always brought Bibles in their language and in English because some people spoke both. And then we, again, worked with the pastor. If someone gets baptized, we always wanted to give them a Bible. Well, the pastor said, no, we don't want to do that, and no, I don't want to baptize people. So here we're, our thought is, and our team was like, no, Ms. Tucker, that's, that's Julie at that point, they're adults. They would say, well, how come we're not doing it? And I said, well, Pastor Joseph doesn't want us to do it that way. So we're here as his guests. We'll listen to what the pastor asked us to do. So we didn't. So come Wednesday, we started clinic on Monday. So on Wednesday, this young gentleman came in the clinic on Monday. But on Wednesday, he said, Julia, come here. I'm like, oh, no. And I went and sat down next to him, and I said, what's up? And he said, what do you think about baptism? And I thought, uh-oh, this is a trick question. And I said, well, what do you mean? What do I think about baptism? And he said, well, do you think I should have baptized that boy? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, why? And I said, because if he asked to be baptized, it's the Spirit working in him that asked. He didn't ask himself. And he said, well, what if your boss tells you can't, that you have to be more teaching? And I just picked up my Bible and I said, my authority is God, not man. And he slammed his fist down. He goes, I am baptizing that boy. And he called him. So when he got to the clinic, we timed it because our clinic was closed and we had already packed everything up. It was 25 minutes. He spent 25 minutes running. I mean, his arms looked like they were wet from, it was sweating. He was sweating and hot. That's how important it was for him to be baptized. And then, of course, the question comes, well, those conversions don't really work. Well, that was in November. In April, he was sitting with the team sharing the gospel to other Muslims. So that's where I want to leave it on a high. That is the end for us of discipleship, is we get to see everything, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just plant the seed and someone else waters it. But this time we got to see the whole thing from the very beginning until the end. So
Thank you.
thank you.